And hey there, hi there, ho there, and a gracious good Saturday morning to you. Welcome back for another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we discuss the joy and excitement of UofL women's sports. A lot of good things have been going on for the Cards. Some things that we'll discuss that maybe aren't so good. Of course, the main factor right now is the lack of good or bad things Cardinal action-wise in women's basketball. We'll get into that a little bit as well, too. But, hey, we've got something we haven't had in a long time. We've got 5 people on this broadcast this morning. So I'm going to feel like a guy dealing cards at the blackjack table, okay? In case you need to hit. How about you, Jared? Jeff judging.
It's getting crowded in this room, guys.
Yeah, it is. It's just like, take a number. If I yell at your number, you talk. But we'll have a lot of fun with it. Let's go ahead and kind of get into some introductions. We've got Daryl with us for the second week in a row. And I posed the question to her earlier, does height matter in softball? And so we'll let her kind of talk about that just a second.
Let me think. Do I think height matters? I don't, because you mentioned Nicole Pooh and she's 5'5", and she took up a lot of space on the field. I don't think height matters. Actually, I think being shorter is a bigger advantage, because once you get in that batter's box, your strike zone's really small.
That's true.
Harder to tag, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And smaller people tend to be faster.
Mm-hmm.
That's very true as well.
I need some evidence. I think that's very anecdotal.
I just always thought Marissa Becker was like 7 foot tall. And then to find out she was only 6 foot tall, kind of a downer for me. It always seemed like she saw eye to eye with me. Also joining us here, we got Jared Anderson in the house with us. He was out last week fulfilling financial obligations. He's with us today. What's been going on in your world, Gerald?
Not much over here. I haven't. I don't have to work another Saturday for a while. I was off yesterday, and I'm off all after Christmas, so it's kind of a nice, little more relaxing time for me right now.
Is it a thing where you can sleep in, or are you still waking up early?
I try to sleep in. A lot of it is I'll be down visiting Katie in South Carolina, so it'll be. Her family likes to get up a little early, so it may not be sleeping in as much as I'd like to.
Instant coffee, you better take it in, a bunch of it, until they get that first pot brewed, buddy. Jeff McAdams in the house today. Jeff and I were kind of talking about a few things, and he was talking about the luxury of having his car hooked up to where he could do just about anything he wanted to inside with the voice command.
I don't use voice command with it. But
is that a Pinto you drive?
Yeah.
What car is that?
Yeah. Explode-mobile. Yeah. No.
That would be nice. As long as you've got a place to get your batteries charged, right?
Yeah. That's a thing with electric vehicles, is that people that live in houses without driveways, like Daryl, for example, perhaps, they can be challenging. So, yeah.
I have to fight over a driving spot or a parking spot.
Yeah.
Let's hope you don't have to fight over a driving spot.
Yeah.
I have done that too.
That usually involves insurance. So
use your turn signals, Carol. Use your turn signals, please.
The coffee's just now kicking in, guys.
There you go. We're in for a fun 59 minutes in. Now that coffee's kicked in Daryl. All right. Also got with me Case Hoskins. Case pulled a Paul here this morning. I fell asleep listening to music in front of my computer terminal and was out for about an hour and woke up and I'm like, oh my God, I'm missing the show. No, I'm not. I'm good. And Case fell asleep before he got his article going there, but a good article today, Case.
Thanks. Yeah, I generally wake up at around 7 on the weekends, and last night before I was going to bed, I went to bed super early too. It was a weird night for me, but before I was going to bed, I was like, you know what? I think I know what I'm going to write about tomorrow, which is usually a struggle on Saturdays with no games, especially when there's been no game for weeks and you don't have anything to write about. So I went to bed thinking, I got this great idea, and then it's going to take some effort. So I'll have to make sure I wake up and get to writing. And then my alarm went off and I quickly ignored it and went back to sleep. So didn't get up at around 7 and was scrambling.
one of the benefits of starting the show at 11, you can do those kind of things. And then if we were an 8 o'clock show, I don't know if we'd be particularly as chipper as we are.
If we were an 8 o'clock show, I wouldn't be on it. Let's be clear.
It would be me and probably Jared, and that would be it. And then we would be making prank wake-up calls to Daryl, Jeff, and Case. Hey, Case, you awake yet? How you doing, buddy? Hey, is that your dog?
I'd definitely have to write my articles the night before if we had to start the show at 8.
Do not disturb.
Do you have a mute button for Skype? I guess you do have one for Skype, don't you? You can just a block button or something. You do that. So, but this is about the time of the show after we've done our introductions that we get into our scheduling and Twitter information. Case has been handling that very well lately. So, pressure's on this week, buddy. What are you going to talk about?
Yeah, there are actually a few things on the calendar here. There's one still on the calendar for women's basketball, but it's just a postponed game. The game against Miami officially being postponed. I believe it was yesterday, maybe Thursday, I don't recall. But the basketball on an empty court picture remains undefeated once again for that announcement. Today, though, the first rescheduled game for the men's team, as they were able to shift that ACC Big Ten Challenge game against Wisconsin. That one was scheduled to be last Wednesday, I believe, and is instead going to take place today at noon on ESPN2. So I'll have to flip that one on during the show edit. Like I said, tomorrow's women's basketball game versus Miami postponed. We can kind of think about the December 31st, which is the next scheduled game for women's basketball. That one's on the road for the second time this year against Duke. Not sure if that one will be happening based on Duke announcing their closure. It's just, we're all just trying to take it as the games come. Men's basketball scheduled to play against Pittsburgh on Tuesday. It's interesting this year I found myself saying they're scheduled to play for all these games instead of just they're going to play. Scheduled to play against Pittsburgh at 7 p.m. on Tuesday. That one is listed as Regional Sports Network, so probably won't get to watch that one because it'll be Fox Sports somewhere. And those are not on YouTube. Thanks. Then we have the holiday, Christmas Eve and Christmas, obviously. And the third holiday of the season, not Boxing Day. No, my birthday on the 26th. And I'll get the great gift of stress against a Kentucky team that Louisville men's basketball should have no business or no problem dispatching, and yet it will be close because it's a rivalry game, and that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
It's because Cal made the shots.
Yeah.
He called the shots.
So that's it. Just men's basketball on the schedule for this week. But that's more than nothing. Usually during Christmas week, there's not anything on the schedule. As we move forward, Twitter is always the best way to keep up with the latest news for these teams. They usually end up with announcements on Twitter before they even make it to the Go Cards site. So you can always check out the sidebar on the Cardinal Couple website. It has a nice Twitter list for all of the UofL women's athletics. And of course, you can follow all of us. My tweet is at Best Case Scenario, BST Case Scenario. Paulie tweets is at Cardinal Couple. Jeff is at Card Couple Radio for his UofL athletics tweets. At Jeff McAdams for the UofL athletics tweets when he forgets to switch accounts and when he just wants to make personal tweets. Daryl's at Daryl Faust 4. That's Daryl with a Y and one L. And Jared is at Mr. Anderson Jared.
And there it is, boy.
That Twitter, that thing I had to shorten it up. I can't add so many comments to each person because it's getting longer.
But you got it done before 11:10, and that's a pretty good time. Scheduling, no doubt, was the key there because there just really isn't all that much going on as far as games on the floor. And I just real quickly, I got the chance to listen to Scotty Davenport this morning talk about his cancellation game where they were supposed to play MTSU over at Freedom Hall today. That one got canceled, and he said they spent 18 hours trying to find an opponent to come in and play and could not come up with a single one. checking the phone banks, emailing, texting people, everything they could think of. But they even tried to get in touch with South Carolina upstate and play, not Becky Burke's team, obviously, but the men's program down there. No help there at all either. So tough times are going on with it right now. And I guess that's maybe where we can kind of start at here a little bit, guys. So we've had 3 in a row canceled now. It's not looking good against Duke, honestly, to get that one in on New Year's Eve, in my opinion. But what say you, dear fellow partners on this show? Jared, are we going to play this year, or is it going to be 2021 before we get back on the court?
I'm thinking probably 2021 at this point. You're starting to see more positive tests throughout different teams, especially in the ACC. And then when you get to the holiday season, and the fear with many of your players and coaches maybe traveling to see family or spending time with family that they've probably distanced themselves from recently, you're facing a pretty severe risk that people could either catch the virus or pass it on to other people. So I'm thinking it's going to be early January by the time things get settled down again, get everybody back to campus and in a semi-bubble. So I think UofL's next game probably won't be until their scheduled January 7th game, which will be at the KFC Center, and hopefully that game will actually happen.
You know, Daryl, we had last played Duke, and Jeff Walls had made the comment, why don't we just stay down there and play them again in like 2 or 3 days and get that in and out of the way? Well, guess what? Our next game is supposed to be against Duke, back at Duke again. This is kind of craziness, isn't it?
It definitely is. At first, I wondered why we were playing at Duke twice this season. Did we ever get an answer on that?
Supposedly there was some kind of scheduling either with the ACC or with the KFC Center that wouldn't allow us to play either of those dates. I think they had the graduation maybe planned.
Okay. And then Duke was the team that we got pulled to play twice. Okay. Well, I think I think Duke is going to be a little more cautious with us because it seems like maybe they could blame us a little for their positive tests, So,
I think there's a chance.
I just think that they're going to be cautious. And like Jared said, the holiday season, it's just too close to Christmas and New Year's, and they might as well just, try to start fresh in 2021.
I think that's an assumption more and more people are coming to. But Jeff, any further thoughts on that? Do you think there's a chance we could get this New Year's Eve game in? And do you actually want to see us play New Year's Eve?
Yeah, there's always a chance, right? But the timing on Duke's announced paused. We talked last week about the timing on ours with this Miami game, and that to end up getting postponed, that we would have been coming just out of that 2-week pause period that they do for these, right as the game was scheduled to hit, and would have been playing like on no practices for it. In the from the Duke perspective, with the timing on their pause would be pretty close to the same thing for this New Year's Day. I think they have 1 extra day, so they might get a practice in. And that's assuming everything, follows the happy path of everybody testing negative as soon as they can and get cleared and back to work, back in the activities as soon as they possibly can. So any delay to that is probably going to torpedo that game. Yeah.
Case, one of the things that I wonder about too is how many practices do you need if you've been off for a while in order to be ready to play a game?
I think it's tough to say. I haven't been paying attention to a lot of the other teams around the country that have been going on pauses and how long they're taking between games. Was hoping to use the UofL men's team as kind of a weather mark, but they canceled their game against NC State that was supposed to be scheduled for Wednesday. That would have been about 5 days of practice, I believe, following their return. But it wasn't really clear why that happened. Contact tracing didn't sound like there was there were more positive tests. So I think that they were fully prepared to play that game on the 5 days of practice. I don't think they would have needed that many either. But one is obviously not enough. But the question with this Duke game, I think, is when did their actual pause start? I know that they officially announced it, I believe, Wednesday or earlier this week. But it's not clear when that started because there was rumors about it, like right after UofL announced their pause. So it's just really, it would make a lot more sense, I think, to everybody if the NCAA's rule was more clear and more consistent and reporting was more available. If we could see teams across the country and see what they're doing and what their timelines look like, then we could have a better idea of being able to plan out these games that are, more than 2 weeks away, and we're trying to decide whether they're going to be played. It's really weird to tell. But as far as the question of how much practice do you need, I would think 5 days after your return to team activities, which would be, I think, based on UofL men's timeline, was 2 days of small groups and individual workouts, and then that would give you 3 full days of practice, or maybe 2 full days of practice and a walkthrough before the game, that kind of thing. I would think you would want 5 days after your return before you get back on the floor to play a game.
5 seasons is about right, I would think. I think you could do it maybe with 3 if you've got a bunch of players that have been practicing for a very, very long time prior to the layoff. It doesn't take that long to really get back into the swing of things, but I'd be more comfortable with 5 than 3, I think. I guess it's just a matter of teams. Some teams can just pick it up the next day and go out there and say, hey, we're still going to go out and put 80 on you. Whether that team or not, I don't know. And it depends on who you're playing also. But there are games scheduled for Sunday. We are not one of them, unfortunately, but we won't be playing some matchups that I would hope will take place on Sundays. We started at noon, Miami versus North Carolina State at North Carolina State. I'm going to go consensus here and see what you all think on that when I see NC State wins this one pretty handily, guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I'm not
NC
getting
State's
any
looked good
negatives.
so far. No, I thought they might get upset there, Paul. Their most recent game and then their fourth quarter, one for the ages, was just incredible to stay undefeated.
Oh, they absolutely blew out in the fourth quarter, didn't they? Yeah, big effort. An NC State team that doesn't really have anybody that's an unsung hero on it besides maybe Kunane, who's playing great basketball right now. Other than that, it's a bunch of girls named Jane that are going out there and just simply whipping your butt. Just put it to you that way. That's the way
It's
it
good
is.
team play. I love it.
Yeah, and if you take a look at it, take a look at the schedule on it as well. Take a look at the standings. They're 7-0.
Yeah.
Wow.
2-0 conference. I haven't been blemished yet. If I were to tell you that there's only 3 teams in the ACC that are still undefeated after 2 or 3 games, I know you know who 2 of them are. Who's the third one? Case, any idea?
Is it Clemson?
No, Clemson took a loss.
I think they took one, yeah. I'm going to say
Syracuse?
Stanford.
Didn't Daryl just post this yesterday?
The Cuse actually took a loss to North Carolina, which surprised
Are we talking ACC or overall?
ACC.
ACC, okay. I said Stanford, so that was overall.
Because it's
Because
It's
overall in
second
the ACC, there's only 2 teams that are still undefeated overall, but in conference there are 3.
it's
course,
Louisville, NC State, and Georgia Tech's actually in first overall because they've played more conference games.
Yeah, Jared rings the bell.
Yeah, I was gonna
It
say-
was Georgia Tech. Yeah,
I was going to
Tied
guess
with-
either Georgia Tech or Notre Dame, but Notre Dame's not doing that well. But
Yeah, no way Notre Dame.
yeah,
3-3 overall, 1-1 in conference right now. Some of the surprises in the ACC, as far as the standings go so far, Let's start with Clemson here. What about their start? 7-1 overall, 2-1 in conference, and I think a team that probably all the coaches had in their lower 1/3 of the preseason rankings for their squad. I think that's a safe thing to say. I know I certainly didn't have them going very high when I looked at the schedule, and the only ones that have beat them were Pittsburgh. Okay. When you think of teams that could beat Clemson and beat them pretty handily, it was Pittsburgh who stood up. What about this Clemson team? Y'all talk to me a little bit about this, Jared. What's going on with these guys?
Wow.
There's a lot of uncertainty this year, especially with this pandemic and games getting canceled and this and that happening, that you almost have to take this season with a grain of salt. A lot of teams are vastly unprepared, or the uncertainty of what players are going to be available for use, the question of different players and coaches testing positive. That we're going to see some shockers on both teams who are just doing extremely surprisingly well, and versus the teams that you thought should have a good year that may just completely fall apart. So I don't think it's really an insult to say a team's having a bad year this year, just because there's so much that's happened.
In case, take a look at this aspect of it, and Daryl, you can chime in on this as well here. Clemson has played 8 games overall. Okay, there's only one other team in the ACC that has played 8 games, and that's North Carolina. You've got a couple of teams like Duke has only played 4 games so far overall. Georgia Tech only 5 games overall. As we get deeper into this schedule, how much is that going to affect kind of like when a good team goes up against a team that maybe not had played as many, but just talk about the dynamics of this where games are getting postponed and canceled right now.
Well, one that stands out to me is Florida State, having played 3 games total, and 2 of them were conference games. So they really struggled with their non-conference schedule. You mentioned North Carolina, who's really interesting, sitting at 6-2 overall. They've won all of their games at home. They've lost both of their games on the road. Their 2 conference losses to Wake Forest and to Miami are by a combined 7 points. And then they beat Syracuse at home by 24.
Yeah.
So they're going to get a chance if everything stays as scheduled. They're going to get a rematch against Wake Forest. So we'll see if that home and away split still makes a big difference. See how they do there. And then they're going to play at Syracuse as well, both before the end of the year. So that'll be interesting to see if North Carolina is kind of what they actually have going on, whether they're just really good at home. They beat South Carolina State by 70 points, but that's South Carolina State. But, at home, they've scored 90 points in all but one of their games. So this home situation for them is really interesting. We had a chance to see how they would actually perform against what we would consider a very good team in Louisville, and then that was the first of the postponed games for Louisville. So North Carolina is a very interesting team to me. As for teams going up against each other with some big discrepancies in the amount of games played, I think that we're just going to have to take every game as it is. It's you almost can't draw any inferences from past performance because it's going to be such a small sample size for some of these teams, like Florida State in particular. So it'll be really weird as the season goes on. And like you said, we get later into the season and you've got a team with 16 games played going up against a team with 8. How do you even judge those teams before going into the game?
A couple of matchups, Daryl, on Sunday, which would be interested in your thoughts and opinion on. You've got Virginia Tech playing Virginia for the Commonwealth Cup. Oh, no, that's football. I'm sorry. And also Wake Forest at North Carolina again. Thoughts on these?
Yeah, it looks like a rivalry weekend. I guess we're about that time, which makes me think about how Louisville's not going to be playing a rivalry game this year, which I think would be a good year to do that. But other than that, it's like Kay said, it's hard to judge these teams when, one team has played 3 games and then one has played 8. And just touching back on that Florida State Clemson game when y'all talked about it, I looked at just some numbers from it. Florida State only shot 20% from 3, which makes me think that they don't have any legs under them. And that just makes me think about all the downtime they've had, or the time that they've not been with their teammates. And it's just it seems like that's going to be the case moving forward for teams. If they can keep their endurance up and able to land the threes, it's really hard to judge anybody else right now. I think this whole year should have an asterisk mark next to it for the season for every single team, because you can't judge anything, any stat, any record, really. And I think even if we did win a championship trophy, it would have an asterisk next to it because who was playing? Were they able to even get 60 teams to play?
Were they even able to get 15 games in? Sure. All that stuff for sure. One of the things that I found interesting here on the Sunday schedule, Clemson, of course, having a fantastic season, is bringing in Notre Dame. Clemson has only ventured out of Little John Arena once this year. They're bringing in Notre Dame for a Sunday game at 3 o'clock. This one is on Network Extra, unfortunately, which I don't really like. I may try to watch it a little bit of it just to see how they handle a Notre Dame team, which is 3-3 right now. Jeff, I got to go with my Tigers here. What do you think? Arthur's cheering for you. Do you think that the Tigers can knock off Notre Dame at home?
Yeah, I think if any year to do it, this is it. Clemson's playing well. They continue to show slow, steady improvement year over year, and again this year, I think we're seeing that. I haven't seen them playing personally yet, but I've seen a lot of the reports and impressed with them. And Notre Dame's still certainly struggling. So I think there's a good shot at it. I think it'll be interesting. I think it'll. It probably won't make news in the women's basketball world necessarily, but I think people that follow it will look at it and go, wow, either Clemson's doing much better or Notre Dame continues to suck, or both, or, and I don't, that may not shock a lot of people, but it'll be an interesting go, wow, yeah, okay, this really is going on. This is happening.
The Nicole Ivy, let's get used to a new coach honeymoon isn't quite over yet. They're still trying to get a little bit of that worked out. Another real interesting game I saw here just coming up on Sunday. If you're not doing anything and want to watch all these, is Pittsburgh at Florida State. Pittsburgh, who did knock off Clemson going into Florida State. In past years, I think we could easily say, Florida State kills this team by 20 points, right? This year, I don't know, because it's an FSU team without Seminole Sue. She's taken the whole season off to take care of her mom, who's infirmed and elderly. So it's been such a strong profile for that program as a head coach down there. Pittsburgh, Florida State. I think that's going to be the game that I'm going to kind of put to the gang here and see. And we'll just do this by picking the winner in this one, and then we'll talk about it on next week's show to see how we did. Who was right, who was wrong on that. I'll start with you, Case. Who's going to win this game, Pittsburgh or FSU?
Well, unfortunately, we barely have any thing to go on for either team, really.
That's why I picked it. That's right. It's a challenge.
I'm probably going to go with Florida State. Home games being what they are, whether there are fans in attendance or not, especially leading up to a holiday. It's going to be the last game for these teams before the holiday, so they're ready to wrap it up and get back. So Florida State technically, even though their players are not from the area, most likely, they are technically closer to home because they won't have to travel back to their university campus and then travel back to their homesteads. But Pittsburgh's schedule is also weird. Their wins, we mentioned the one over Clemson, but their other wins are over George Mason and Hofstra. Then their losses are to Delaware and Virginia Tech. I don't know what to take from this Pitt record so far. So I'm just going to pick Florida State just because. I can't even give you a good reason at this point.
Florida State. That's that insightful, detailed reporting we love out of Case so much. I can't tell you why. Just give me the Knowles. All right, Jared, I'm going to give you this one, and I know which way you're probably leaning because of, KD and stuff, but Pittsburgh versus Florida State. Give me a winner here.
At least mine is not going to be biased. I think Florida's going to beat Florida State. We know why Jared's going to beat Florida State.
Because he doesn't want to sleep on the couch. I don't blame him.
He hasn't made his pick yet now. Wait a second. We got to hear from the man.
Hey, she's down. She's down in South Carolina right now. She went home, so I could pick against Florida State and still have a nice, comfy bed to sleep in. But no,
Till she comes
I do
back.
think Florida State. Good point there. But I do think Florida State's going to be the better team there. Florida State's always been one of the better teams in the ACC, and even without Seminole Sioux, it's going to be hard to see them completely crash and burn. So yeah, I'm going with Florida State.
Just taking the home team, always a wise move, I guess. I don't know. Jeff, these guys are so solidly in the FSU camp. Are you staying with them?
Years of watching women's basketball, and particularly women's basketball in the ACC, I tend to go to Florida State. But really, I see this as almost a coin flip this year. So just to be an oddball, I'll go with Pitt.
I'm going to take those Panthers up there. I love it. Daryl just let out a cry of anguish there. I think
to be honest, my logic is only about as sound as Case's is. It's just like, I don't know. You pick one.
I'm one of those people, if everyone's taking Florida State, I'm going to take the opposite. Why not?
I have no idea.
2-2, and that puts the casting vote on me here, the deciding vote here. Which way am I going to roll here?
You might as well flip a coin.
I think that I could probably do that and make as much sense as you all have on your reasons. But
it's your fault for picking the most random, unseasoned teams.
I thought it would be a challenge for you all.
It is that.
I was obviously right, because I could have given you Syracuse and Boston College. I know what way you would have gone on that. Okay, but no, we did this one. But in Pittsburgh versus Florida State, I've given this a lot of thought, at least 40 seconds now while I've been delaying here. Home teams in the ACC do very well. This one is at Florida State. So for that very reason, I'm picking Pittsburgh. There we go. I'm picking the Panthers too. And hopefully they can pull this one out, because I'm also still a little bit mad at FSU. They've beat us a couple times in the past, and it wasn't always pretty. Plus, Jasmine Jones, if I picked FSU, would get highly mad at me. What? Well, everybody's got to beat Florida State.
Yeah, I'm looking at Clemson's schedule here. And they're 7-1 now. We've been talking about that a little bit. They could go through. I could see through January 7th before they take another loss. They got Notre Dame and then Miami. They could be 9-1. Yeah. I think quite reasonably, that's possible. Go Tigers!
They've got a great coach, but there's a good team. They've got some great transfers in at Clemson.
Yeah,
they've been playing some good ball down there.
Yeah. I mean, on the 7th, they play Georgia Tech. Frankly, I think Georgia Tech wins that one, but that's not even out of the realm of possibility, given 2020, what it's been like, and what this season is like heading into 2021.
So let's give the Tigers a little bit of credit here, because obviously they started out with Furman. Okay, that was a 40-point win, and probably should have been. Not liking Methodist, they played Presbyterian and beat them by almost 45 points there. So that was a big win too. Their next game was CLT.
Charlotte. Mm-hmm.
That'll work for me, yeah. But only winning that one by 7 points. It was on the road, though. Mm-hmm. They brought in Mercer, won that by 13, and then played COFC. And there's another one that's got me baffled there.
College of Charleston.
Yep. That is correct.
Won that one by, 22?
A 22-point win?
Yeah.
Beat a Virginia team, which I don't understand what has happened to them this year. They've got a great coach. I guess they just got no talent, guys, or whatever, because they're playing very badly right now. Then the loss to Pitt, and then, of course, the win over FSU in their last one, where FSU actually had a chance to win that game. 72-69, Clemson beat them, but FSU had a wide open three at the buzzer. 2 seconds to go, and the girl bricked it. I mean, didn't even get backboard, didn't get rim, didn't get anything. And then Clemson got fouled on the rebound, so they went and hit a free throw to win by 3. They were up by 2 at the time. FSU going for the win in that game instead of settling for the tie. So there you have it.
Can't fault that.
Yeah, no, you can't. I mean, it's just it's a team that says, "Hey, we're going to win this thing now. We don't want to play 5 more minutes. Let's get it over with." Work for them. So we've covered the ACT in great detail here. Let's dive a little closer to home and talk about our own Louisville Cardinals in the WBB realm of things. We got the news today that Nia Green, All-American who came in here last year, decided to take a voluntary redshirt season.
She won't. Oh, no. Okay, yeah. Sorry. I was thinking you were talking about with the transfer would have to sit out. Not going to have to sit out with the transfer.
That's correct.
Yeah, sorry.
But she did redshirt this last year.
Yeah.
And came back this year. Had some people have some very high hopes and thoughts and projections for her, but she was basically last in minutes played in the Cards 5 games this season, and has decided now that she's going to enter the portal. And since I'm not up on science fiction, kind of explain the portal a little bit to me here, Jared. What's going on with the portal?
Shoots out blue and orange circles. No, sorry.
Yeah, the transfer portal is the time when players can put their name out there for it wouldn't be like recruitment per se, but for other teams to go out and take her if they're interested. And when I was kind of looking out there when the news first broke, somehow I ended up directly on a Baylor fan forum, and
yeah,
Baylor's pretty confident, as you'd mentioned too in our group text earlier this week, that they're going to be taking Nia Green, which when you look at geographically where she's from and where her family is, it would make sense for her to go somewhere like Baylor, which is also a top tier program. Obviously nothing's been announced yet, but now that she has entered her name in the portal, she will no longer be able to play in games with UofL, nor would she be able to continue practicing with the Cards.
Now, if things don't turn out the way she likes in the portal, answer this for me: would she be able to actually come back to Louisville, or no?
Yes, she'd be in the same boat as we saw with Sagan Robbins and Lindsay Duval, where in terms of the NCAA size, yes, they could return. At that point, then you're looking at the decision by the UofL women's basketball, whether they wish to take her back or not, which to me, Jeff Walz has always been one of those coaches that, sure, if you can't find somewhere that's going to suit you best, come on back over here and we will gladly take you on with us.
Was it a case of over recruiting in her case, guys? In case I'll let you take off on this a little bit here. Was she stepped over? Did they just go ahead and bring in better stuff? I mean, the girl was an All-American in high school for holy cow. And then, what do you think?
I don't know if it's... I always struggle with the phrase over-recruiting, especially in modern basketball, where you can see all kinds of lineups and coaches are much more inclined to just put their best players on the floor. I think it's just a case of Nia Green's a very good player. I don't want to take anything away from her, but you have to show that. You have to prove yourself in practice and force your way onto the floor. And unfortunately, she's just not done that. And if she's not forcing her way onto the floor in practice, then she's choosing to force her way onto the floor for another team, which I can't blame anybody who wants to get more playing time. I switched away from my preferred position when I was in high school on the soccer team after playing on the team for 4 years. I switched away from my preferred position because I wanted more playing time. I mean, I get it. I completely understand. I didn't switch schools, but I switched positions. So that's not really an option that you have in basketball. I don't think she can just decide she wants to be a center and say she wants to get on the floor that way. But, you know, it's just the way that it is. There's a lot of guards on this team. They're really good, and Jeff Walz would not be afraid to put 4 of them on the floor all at one time if Nia Green would show that she's deserving and capable of carrying her weight that way. And that's just not what he's seeing in practice, apparently, and not how she feels going forward. So I wish her the best wherever she decides to go. And if she ultimately decides to stay, which I would call incredibly unlikely, but if she does, then, happy to have her, happy to see her develop as a Cardinal, but we'll see how things go.
Daryl, did this surprise you?
I was gonna say, you just never know what's going on in these kids' heads. I've said it last week. This year has put people in a lot of different scenarios that they might have never imagined they would be in. Maybe we don't know what's going on with her family. If they're possibly suffering at home and she just feels like she needs to be there. So maybe that anxiety over this past year has been in the back of her mind the entire time, and maybe that is why it doesn't, like Case was saying, her motivation and practice to be seen is just maybe not there, and it's just kind of like a domino effect. And Coach Walz said that she approached them and with this idea. And I was going to ask Jared, so she can't go shop around at other schools before she says she's officially in the transfer portal, correct? Is that?
Technically, yes. You don't. It's not like in a business or a workplace where you've already signed a contract with somebody. Or like with the NBA, NFL, where you can't really shop around while you still got your contract until you let your current employer know in terms of your sports that, hey, I'm going to go look at these other places. Mm-hmm. In college, especially financially, everything is set, and your eligibility is all set between the NCAA and the school you're currently playing for. Right. So at that point, you have to disclose with your current school, like, hey, I'm planning to look elsewhere. Yeah. You don't have to provide a reason. I know it's more respectful and looks better when you're providing reasons like, hey, I'm choosing to enter the transfer portal for this, and this. I mean, I guess it would look kind of bad if you say, hey, I'm entering the transfer portal, but I'm not telling you why. But yeah, you can't just go out and start meeting with other coaches and programs to say, yeah, I haven't told UofL yet I'm leaving, but I'm interested in your program.
Yeah, I think overall that would be a bad look anyways for her and any other school that was interested in her if she didn't go that route.
Right, you want that transparency and the honesty there, because it's going to reflect on you going forward too.
Yeah, and if she doesn't end up anywhere else, that would make it more awkward to try to come back.
Right.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, Coach Walz would welcome her back. There's a reason he asked her there in the first place. So, he obviously sees something, some potential in her game. But, like everybody else has touched on, it makes sense when you want some more minutes, and who knows what her family is going through.
It's true. All right, I'm going to throw a impromptu pop one quiz question at Jeff here. Cardinal couple quiz question, Jeff, for you only.
Okay.
Aaron the Great, Sierra Johnson, Nia Green. Besides leaving Louisville, what else do they have in common?
They're all from Texas.
And ding, 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 ding. He hits it. Nails it right on the button. So what is it with the Texas connection and the Cardinals here? It doesn't seem to be working very good, bud. What's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. It is an odd coincidence, I think, but I do kind of think it is really just a coincidence. I hope it is. But it is interesting that connection there. I can't put anything significant on it beyond that.
I think Texas, like Louisville, has a lot of emotional ties. There's something about people from there. It's a big place, millions and millions of people. So there's something, just a home feeling to it. And I can't say I don't understand.
Do you think she ends up anywhere else beside a Texas school, like a Baylor, or maybe, like maybe an SMU or Texas Tech or Texas A&M, even Texas University of Texas?
I don't.
I really don't either. But I'd be interested.
I could see something like maybe in Arkansas or something that's maybe not in Texas, but close by.
I don't, because it would defeat her reason. Her reason was wanting to be home closer to her family, right?
Sure.
I just think it would look really weird to go to anywhere but a home school.
Potentially.
So if you're an Oregon fan, you're probably not going to get Nia Green. Good thoughts there. But certainly wish her the best wherever she ends up. I think she'll be a benefit wherever she goes, and I hope that she does find the playing time that she's seeking. Mm-hmm. For anybody who ever does that as well. Also got some interesting news about Amina Ekike. We all kind of knew this going into it. I'll kind of start with Case on this one here. She did officially announce, guys, on Instagram that she is not going to return for the proposed spring season of soccer here. We saw this coming, though, didn't we?
Yeah, and what's interesting about this one, we talked a little bit earlier about the likelihood that she ends up at Racing Louisville, which we'd all like to see. She'd probably love to end up there because it's her hometown. New team would be a great opportunity for them from marketing perspective and fan relations perspective. Great opportunity for her to get to stay home and still continue that career. And what interests me about her announcement is that she went ahead and said she's foregoing all remaining eligibility to pursue her professional career. Why that interests me is because the NCAA has granted a waiver, approved a waiver request that players can enter the NWSL draft, and then if they don't like where they ended up, they can return. They can just withdraw their name from that player pool after the draft and return to play in this spring season. Or potentially, they can elect to play in the spring season and sign their contract afterwards. So they would retain eligibility. What that makes me think is that Amina has some assurances from some team, whether that's Racing Louisville or not. It would make me think that she has some assurances that she's going to be selected and she wants to go ahead and report to that team and not play in that spring season, based on the fact that she would be allowed to if she wanted to. I don't know that for sure, but if you look at it, Louisville has the most picks in the draft with 5 because they're the new team. A team like Kansas City has 3 picks in a row in the second round. So they'd have a good opportunity to get a batch of players that they really want there. I think she's definitely a round 2 or 3 player. If you look at some of the player lists from the past season, you can look at Top Drawer's list from the postseason of last year. They didn't put out a player list this year, but she was number 25 in the top 100 from last year's postseason. She's tied for 24th in Soccer Wire's rankings from this season, and that's based solely on this season's performance. So you would think she would be ranked even a little bit higher because her season this year was not as stellar as some of her others. So she's definitely going to be a player that I would think would be available in that pick 11 to 21 range, which is, like I said, 2 picks for Louisville and 3 picks for Kansas City. I think is probably going to be very interesting to see where she ends up. But I think she is going to go ahead and report wherever she's drafted.
Hometown kids help attendance, too. Let's not forget that.
Yep.
Hey, Jared, what is Louisville going to do without her this spring? Because she was the one up front.
Definitely struggle a little bit. Excuse me there. She's been that leader since she stepped on the pitch her freshman year. She made an impact immediately. And Louisville's been able to ride her a little bit in terms of offensive success and then her impact in the midfield. She may not be the biggest vocal leader out there, but she led by her work ethic and her skills and just her overall performance. And the team really looked up to her and respected her. So it's going to be a big change to find someone that's going to replace her, as well as just the level of talent that she has, because you don't come across a lot of players like that. So it's going to take a little bit of time for them to find that next, let's say, superstar. And it may be a few years before our next Amina Ekich shows up.
So does Karen Ferguson days then basically change the attack lineup now? Now that the one that she was featuring up there at the top is gone?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You've got, excuse me, still waking up here with the morning call. You've got players like Delaney Snyder, who's made some impact in there, and it appears that Taylor Kerwin's coming back. I know she scored a few goals last year. You've seen Sarah Hernandez score in the past, but those have always come off set pieces. So I don't know if maybe they try and involve her a little more in the game offensively, even though she is a center back. Maybe coach tries to rearrange that. Maybe we see Maisie Whitsett move back up to the front, because I think Maisie may have moved back to the wing back, as Case mentioned earlier, that she just wanted more playing time. So maybe she'll switch some stuff around. But there's plenty that they're going to have to look for to replace, and the transfer with Jess DeFilippo makes that even tougher.
Yep, I've got to agree with that as well. We'll see what happens with it. Interesting for spring sports and women's soccer from those aspects. All right, we got a little time. Let's have a little fun, shall we? It's the holiday season after all.
You mean we weren't having fun?
You don't know how painful it is on this end, Daryl. No, I can't say that. Of course, we actually always have a very good time here, but let's have a little holiday fun instead of UofL joy and excitement sports fun. I sent a text a little earlier to the gang asking them to do 3 things for me. Drop off loads of money, start my car for me, and feed me breakfast, and nobody showed up. No, the 3 things that I asked them to consider: their favorite Christmas movie, their favorite Christmas song, and their favorite Christmas food. So we've certainly got 3 aspects here to that. I hope they've got some opinion on. You can play along at home and see what you think too, whether Jeff was crazy about that or Daryl doesn't know what she's talking about on this one. But let's go ahead and let's go ahead and start it out with Daryl. Daryl, what is your favorite Christmas movie?
All right, so I had to think about this one this morning. Polly got me up thinking about stuff on a Saturday.
Darn that guy.
I think I have to go with the classic A Christmas Story, because it's just something that's been in my family forever. Like, we would act out scenarios from the movie. I think we quote the movie all year long, and they play it on TV for 24 hours straight. I could watch it the entire 24 hours. I could leave it on that channel and just be happy. The Bumpuses scene we did as a kid. I got my dad a major award leg lamp, and then put it in like a crate and wrote Fragile on it, stuffed it with straw, it's got to be a classic in my family. My mom would call us Ralphie and Randy and My Little Piggy and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, and I was a Scott Farkas in earlier life too.
Gosh, Scott Farkas.
That rings well. All right, we've got your movie out of the way, Daryl. What's your favorite Christmas song?
I can't put my arm down. My favorite Christmas song? I don't really know the title of this one, but it's the one that goes
White Christmas?
Is it just White Christmas?
I'm dreaming of a White Christmas.
Yeah. That scene in the Santa Claus, which was a close runner-up for me. That's how I know it's Christmas, when I hear that and see that scene in The Office.
And wasn't that in Home Alone too, if I remember right? Maybe it
Probably.
wasn't. All right, a very good song that I like that would do. Kind of nice little rhythmic beat to it. All right, we're gonna give you one food for Christmas, Daryl. What are you asking for?
I couldn't think of a Christmas food. Like, what is a Christmas
something
food?
Something you want to see on the table Christmas Day that you look forward to every year. You know it's going to be there, and your lips are kind of like smacking. Oh, I'm going out with the mom. I'm going to have this, and I know it's going to be on the table kind of food.
So I think then I would say, and this is like a holiday food overall. Like I'm going mashed potatoes, and I don't really call it Christmas because I had mashed potatoes last night. But
Right. Okay.
I get excited for mashed potatoes, and I'm just gonna stuff everything else on the table into the mashed potatoes.
Even the cranberries.
Whatever, it's going in the taters, the
And you,
rolls, the turkeys, all of it.
and you got to cover them with gravy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Three solid picks there. Daryl is coming in strong here with her picks here. Jeff is going to be hard to follow up on this one, but you're up next. Your Christmas movie.
I'm going to stretch this one a little bit because I'm not a big Christmas movie fan in general. I mean, Christmas Story is a strong contender here. Let me credit that absolutely. But I'm going to stretch this category a little bit. I'm going to go with the TV special. Actually, half-hour TV special. I'm not going to stick with feature length. For me, it's the classic animated How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's an underrated. As much as people love it, I think it's even still an underrated. The story and the meat to it is great. Plus, you get Boris Karloff, and you get an uncredited Thurl Ravenscroft doing the Grinch songs. I mean, that's fantastic. Animation by Chuck Jones, who's just an amazing animator. So, yeah, it's that for me is kind of that makes it Christmas for me.
Yeah, I think as
Jeff,
much as
I have a
everybody
follow-up.
Okay.
Have you watched the other versions?
The Jim Carrey version?
The Jim Carrey, and there's a newer one that I think came out last year.
Oh, no, I haven't seen the new one.
The Lorax animation, DreamWorks
Oh,
kind
okay.
of
Yes.
situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have not watched all of the Jim Carrey Grinch. I've watched some of it, and it didn't particularly enjoy it, to be honest. I thought because the story is a half-hour story in the special, and they tried to stretch it out and fill it with physical comedy. And if you want to fill time with physical comedy, goodness knows Jim Carrey is the person to do it. But it just didn't work for me, which is fine, and some people love it, and that's great.
I think
I ask because apparently kids are afraid of the original Grinch, which I can see how he'd be a little scary.
Yeah.
But he's still like
I can see that.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, as much as you lose, or as much as people love the Jim Carrey Grinch, and Jeff is not one of those people, but a lot of people are. As much as people love him, I think you lose some of the Grinchness, as it were, without that just original animation, the hair curling and the big
evil
animated
face.
Grin, just
Yes.
stuff that is not matchable. And even in the new Lorax style animation Grinch, it's not there. The original, I agree with Jeff, is pretty top notch.
Gotta have strong Grinch ability. Yeah, gotta be there. All right, we got Jeff's feature movie there. How about your Christmas song that you love to hear?
It's hard to pick just a single song. What I will say is, for Christmas music for me, I recognize this was something I discovered about myself a number of years back. For me, my favorite Christmas music always includes the notion that Christmas is not always just this perfect, wonderful time for everybody. That there are still challenges in the world. There are still difficulties. Some people have a really tough time at Christmas. Maybe they lost a loved one around Christmas time. It brings those memories back. Whatever. People are still struggling financially and in their lives, and the Christmas can then be a stress in that case. So songs that acknowledge that maybe everything isn't quite completely all right in the world seem to really resonate with me. I think this is a little bit of my cynicism coming out. So, one example that I use is "We Need a Little Christmas." That song is a very upbeat song, very peppy, very happy in style.
Yeah, that does not sound like Jeff to me.
Well, but if you think about it, the story of the song, it comes from Mame, the musical, right? And the story of the song is these two kids are spending time with their Aunt Mame, who has been fabulously wealthy and lives, fancy, glamorous, glittery lifestyle. But it's set during the 1930s in the Great Depression, and she's fallen on hard times. And so the story of the song is, we need a little Christmas to cheer us up in a situation where things aren't all that great, right? So, so while it's a happy song stylistically, there's just that little acknowledgement that there's, being Christmas doesn't paper over all the problems of the world. So another one I like is that's very different stylistically. The Royal Guardsman, Snoopy the Red Baron, right?
Oh,
Still fun,
classic old song.
right?
Old song.
Still kind
Merry
of fun
Christmas,
stuff.
my friend.
But
Yeah.
it's set in the middle of World War I, right? As the story, right? Just the largest, probably one of the most deadliest wars in history is the setting for this song. So yeah, it's it's upbeat and it's positive, but it ends with these two, Snoopy and Baron von Richthofen going off expecting to meet each other again and try to kill each other again in the future, right? I mean, there's a little bit of a downbeat in there, so always a little bit like that works for me.
Thanks for cheering us all.
Yeah, I know, right? I do also Vince Guaraldi's the Charlie Brown Christmas album is just sublime, and that's generally pretty upbeat and happy. So I'll go with that one to keep the spirits light.
It's a good thing we're getting Jeff out of the way.
I was waiting on you to say.
This is like a monologue,
Yeah. Sorry, I have
Wait,
opinions. Wait till we get to food. I have opinions.
Well, food's next for you,
Right.
here, so I'm going to limit you to one food, okay?
Yeah, no, I was going to stick with one food.
You can't go into a 14 food dialogue.
Right. No,
You're at the table. What do you want?
What I will say is traditionally, turkey is a big Christmas food. I think, and this is my hot take, and it's not just about Christmas, but I think any place that you use turkey, ham is better.
Wow.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
Hey, some people don't eat ham for religious reasons.
No, I get that. I totally get that. I want to respect that. But from a taste perspective, I think it's better. So, yeah.
Do you put gravy on ham?
Sure, why not?
Weird.
It's a little odd, but it is good.
I'm going to
I've
get
had-
into the ham aspect in a little bit here when I go to my stuff, okay?
Yeah.
But we're going to see right now, Jeff, is ham over turkey?
Yeah.
Fair enough?
Try ham Alfredo sometime. It's quite good, actually.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I was going to have a ham gimlet, but,
Yeah.
it's kind of salty. All right, so let's go to Case next here. Case, let's start you at favorite Christmas movie.
So I was struggling to decide. Classics, I think ones I have to watch every Christmas are Elf and Christmas Vacation. I actually went to the drive-in movies the other night and saw Elf and Christmas Vacation on the same night. That was a lot of fun. But my favorite Christmas movie, I'm going to say, is The Nightmare Before Christmas. I'm a weirdo that has a Jack Skellington mug at my office, and it gets used twice a year for 2 months, October and December, because it is both a Halloween and a Christmas movie, and neither holiday is complete without watching it.
I like it.
Yeah, good. Very good there. A song.
My favorite Christmas song is it's a very interesting version of Santa Claus is Coming to Town. But it's from an old, we had these stuffed like singing things when I was a kid. We had one for Easter and one for Christmas. And it's just a rock and roll, bluesy, like ZZ Top like version of Santa Claus is Coming to Town. So that's the one for me.
Like a Bruce Springsteen kind of take there.
It's indescribable. It's a product of, I think, the 80s, and that's the only time in history it would make sense, is this little toy that vibrates and shakes violently and sings about a rock and roll Santa coming to town.
There you go.
The Easter version raps. It's Peter Cottontail, a rap version, so it's similarly strange.
I can only wait to hear what your food is now. Boy,
I'm really going to throw you off.
Fire away.
My favorite Christmas food is cookie cake, because it's my birthday the next day. And so that's
Hey, that's my mom's birthday.
thing that I look forward to the most is getting through Christmas Day, because the next day is my birthday and I get cookie cake. So that's what I'm calling my favorite Christmas food.
All fine choices, and I've had a cookie cake before. Yes, I got to agree with you on that. Good stuff. All right, we'll bring in the young pup with a bunch here, Jared. Jared, I know you've been listening to all these with your mouth drooling and ideas just busting out of your head. Your Christmas movie.
I thought about sparking some debate and saying Die Hard just
I was waiting for it.
to let a nice little argument get going here. So maybe that'll be I'll ask that sometime this week just to let the comments roll in. But no, I'm a big Christmas Vacation fan. I think that's a nice classic, and there's just so much comedy in it from start to finish that it's one I really enjoy watching.
And then something about that movie which is so funny, besides Randy Quaid, who steals it for me, is that Julia Louis-Dreyfus was in that movie. And a lot of people don't remember that. Seinfeld. Remember her line?
She's one of the best characters in the movie.
I think
she's just
is.
always so mad at Todd, who has done nothing wrong, but she's just furious at him for everything.
When she goes to the door and the squirrel jumps on her chest, that's you gotta love stuff like that. Okay. All right, we got your movie there down there, Jared. How about a Christmas song?
Yeah, there's plenty of Christmas songs. There's most Christmas songs I enjoy listening to, and I'll probably go on a rant later this week about ones I don't like. But I think the Straight No Chasers version of 12 Days of Christmas, which usually finds its way to 106.9 every once in a while, but they've been in town before, so I have gotten to hear that live.
Yeah.
That specific version of that song is probably my favorite.
Straight ahead, a lot of repetition, but it's a fun song to sing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially when you get around 7 or 8, you can't remember exactly which is which. Okay. Yeah. All right, you're at the table. What's that go-to food on Christmas Day for you?
I'm siding with Jeff on this one. Ham the whole way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The boys are solid on ham, so I'm gonna go ahead and break this out now. Then I was gonna wait till later, but each one of you guys, is it a city ham or a country ham?
Doesn't matter.
Oh, country ham. Country ham is the best ham of everything, but yeah, I'll eat any type of ham.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I got a country ham for Christmas one year, actually. It was great.
And the country ham was going to be mine just to get to mine later on, but no, that's fine. I will go ahead and go with another food there. As for movies, for me, and I had give this one a lot of thought, but it's a little movie about two of my favorite actors in it, in Bill Murray and Rick Moranis. It's called Scrooged, and a classic movie about the holiday season. Karen Allen makes a nice appearance in that too, about what does Christmas really mean, and just some hilarious and funny scenes in it, and some very poignant scenes too. Bill Murray in Scrooged would be my movie to pick there. As far as a Christmas song, I'm a little older than you guys. I go back to the old traditional standards and favorites, but hearing Bing Crosby sing "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas,"
That's good.
can always get a little tear up in my eye listening to that one. Such a great song. Food, well, ham got taken early.
It's a popular choice.
Country. And it is, and it's a very good selection. And I am bringing the ham this year, so it'll be a good one. But, I'm going to go to a sweet potato casserole. If I get a good sweet potato casserole in front of me, I'll go in there and lick the bowl. I really will. It's good
That's
stuff.
a very local choice too, apparently.
Yeah,
They don't do that everywhere.
If you get a good sweet potato casserole that's done correctly, that's right. You're not going to find a good Kentucky one in somewhere else, like say Arizona. And when I talked to my aunt out in California about it, she goes, "What's so special about that? I mean, you're just eating a sweet potato." Well, you ain't had it the way my girl cooks it, so there you go. But
We would have a very interesting potluck.
well, there'd be a lot of ham there.
A lot of ham.
Yeah.
Ham and cookie cake and sweet taters.
And maybe some crescent rolls on the side, just to kind of wipe stuff with. You got to have that. Mashed potatoes for sure, too. Too many starches. Entirely too many starches.
I'd put the cookie cake in the mashed potatoes.
Let's do it.
All right, everybody meet up at Southern High School parking lot at 5:30. Bring your favorite dish. And we'll get run off by 5:45. Probably got the police out there. Good stuff there. We'll get into final thoughts in real quickly. We've gone a little longer than we normally do today, but we shared some really good things with you all. I think it's had some fun here. So final thoughts. Go ahead and start out with you on the final thoughts case. What you got for me?
My final thought is the interesting rowing scheduling announcement that they put out. announcing that they were unveiling their 2020 and 2021 schedule, which starts on February 19th of 2021. They really could have just gone with the 2021 schedule. I get that it's this school year and that it normally would have started already, but let's call it what it is. It should be interesting. They're going to presumably fit in a lot of events leading up to the ACC and NCAA championships in May. So that should be fun and exciting. Probably better to boat in March than November, I guess.
The only reason I can think they could do that is they do have some fall rowing as well. So maybe they didn't want to confuse that with the 21-22 schedule. Okay. Because you have
for sure.
rowing.
Yeah, for sure. I understand the point of keeping the season in check. It's just it was a funny phrasing to me.
We certainly enjoyed the rowing the time Jeff and I covered it live down there for sure.
That was fun.
A good time. Jeff, your final thoughts?
Yeah, just kind of revisit the idea of wishing Amina Ekic well and in the draft, and I hope, and like I think all of us do, that she ends up here in Louisville, so I can go watch her on the next level.
Yeah, certainly would be fun to see her in the next level and see her as a Cardinal or playing down at Louisville FC. It would be fun. I'd certainly enjoy that a lot. All right, Jared, what you got for me? Final thought was.
Yeah, being the big Star Wars nerd that I am, I thought The Mandalorian Season 2 was quite excellent. I know they just wrapped up the final episode of it yesterday with some hints of more big, cool Star Wars projects to come. So I'm excited to see where they go with all of that.
Yeah, it could be an interesting thing to follow for sure. Daryl, some final thoughts from you?
I'm just excited basketball's back. Got the Cards on right now against Wisconsin, which we heard that Carlik Jones is out, so I'm a little nervous about that, but glad it's back. It's been like a month since we've had a game, and I hope the women's game comes back pretty soon, but like we said earlier in the show, I think it'll be 2021 before we see them back out on the court, so I just hope everybody has a warm and safe and a good Christmas.
Yeah, because technically we will have one more show if we decide to do one the day after Christmas. I'll kind of talk to you guys about that later on, and we'll have the announcement. But
yeah, we got to sing Happy Birthday on air to Case that day.
Oh, we definitely do. And I'm going to bring in the Agape Singers to do that in 5-part harmony. This is some of my final thoughts. Is I'm so ready for 2020 to be over with and 2021 to start. For there to be some light at the end of the tunnel, to be some hope in the despair and darkness we got right now. For just a chance for us to kind of say, you remember when things were rotten, instead of having to say, man, things are still rotten. Okay. So my final thoughts there, but we will in all probable see you all next week here on the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour. And if you know something we don't, let us know. We always appreciate that. Until then, I hope everybody has themselves a merry little Christmas and a safe, silent night. Bye-bye.